Throughout history, there have been locations that have become infamous not just for their tragic pasts, but for their eerie supernatural presence. These places are marked by death, sorrow, or cruelty, and they are often considered to be cursed, haunted, or haunted by dark, malevolent forces. From decaying asylums to ancient castles and war-torn battlegrounds, these locations hold an undeniable energy that draws people in and, for many, spits them out forever. The belief in haunted places stretches back centuries. Ancient cultures feared certain spots, calling them cursed or sacred due to tragic events or sacrifices that occurred on the land. Today, these beliefs persist, with modern accounts of ghostly apparitions, chilling sounds, and unsettling sensations experienced by those brave or foolish enough to venture into these places. Whether it's a dark, foreboding mansion or an abandoned institution, these places become imbued with something far beyond their physical surroundings. They hold the energy of the spirits who perished there, some of whom never truly left. This article examines some of the deadliest haunted places on Earth, locations where the spirits of the dead seem to linger, and where the living face both physical and psychological dangers. Some of these places are infamous for their ghostly inhabitants. Others are known for the tragic events that occurred within them. Together, they represent the darkest side of the supernatural, where the veil between the living and the dead seems impossibly thin. 1. The Tower of London. The ghosts of the English monarch. Tower of London is one of the most famous haunted locations in the world, and its long, bloody history makes it a particularly sinister place. This iconic fortress, located on the banks of the River Thames in London, has been the site of numerous executions, imprisonments, and betrayals over the centuries. It's no surprise, then, that many believe the spirits of those who suffered and died within its walls still roam the tower today. The tower has witnessed executions of historical figures, including Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, who was beheaded for alleged treason. Anne's ghost is one of the most frequently reported spirits, with sightings of her apparition seen in the tower's Chapel Royal and the grassy area where she was executed. The ghost of Anne Boleyn is often described as a headless figure, her decapitated body floating in a haunting, ethereal form. Other ghosts are said to haunt the tower, including the spirits of two young princes, Edward V and Richard, Duke of York, who were allegedly murdered by their uncle, Richard III, in the late 15th century. The tragic fate of the two boys has turned them into enduring specters, with many claiming to have seen their faces peering out from the tower's windows or heard their innocent voices echoing through tea halls. But it's not just the souls of royalty that haunt the Tower of London. There are numerous other accounts of eerie happenings, including reports of cold spots, strange noises, and shadowy figures. Visitors often report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when walking through the tower's darker corridors. The historical brutality and treachery that unfolded within its walls create an atmosphere charged with malevolent energy, and many who have spent the night in the tower report feeling as though they are being watched or even physically touched by unseen forces. 2. Aokigahara Forest, Japan. The suicide forest Aokigahara Forest, located at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan, is one of the most terrifying places on Earth, not just because of its eerie ambience, but because of the dark history that clings to it. Known as the Suicide Forest, this dense, labyrinthine forest has earned its grim reputation due to the high number of suicides that have occurred within its depths. The forest's association with death has led many to believe that it is cursed and haunted by restless spirits. Aokigahara's dark history goes back centuries. It is deeply intertwined with the tradition of yubasut, an ancient practice in which elderly people were abandoned to die in the wilderness. The forest is also thought to be a place where spirits of the dead gather, unable to pass on due to the tragic nature of their deaths. In modern times, Aokigahara has become infamous for being a popular spot for people contemplating suicide, with hundreds of people taking their lives in the forest each year. The Japanese government has even posted signs at the entrance of the forest, urging people to reconsider and reach out for help. Visitors to the forest often report feeling an overwhelming sense of unease, as though they are being watched by unseen entities. Some claim to have heard whispers or footsteps, despite being alone in the forest. Others describe feeling a sudden, oppressive feeling of sadness or despair that leads them to retreat. Ghostly apparitions and shadowy figures are frequently reported, and some say the forest seems to pull people deeper into its heart, as though it has a malevolent will of its own. Many visitors to the forest have also reported their electronics malfunctioning, further adding to the eerie atmosphere of the place. Given the nature of the deaths that occur here, Aokigahara is believed by many to be a place of immense suffering and spiritual unrest, a forest where souls are trapped, unable to move on due to the violent nature of their ends. 3. Poveglia Island, Italy. The island of death located in the Venetian lagoon, Poveglia Island is often referred to as one of the most haunted places in the world. The island's dark history is filled with disease, death, and suffering, and it has long been a place where death lingers in the air. In the 14th century, the island was used as a quarantine station for those infected with the bubonic plague. Thousands of people were brought to Poveglia to die, their bodies burned in mass pyres. The island became known as the Island of Death, and the spirits of those who perished there are said to still haunt the land. In the 1920s, the island was repurposed as a mental asylum, where patients were subjected to cruel and inhumane treatments. It was here that one of the most chilling stories associated with the island took place. According to legend, the doctor at the asylum performed a series of horrific experiments on patients, including lobotomies. One day, the doctor was reportedly driven mad by the spirits of the deceased patients, and he threw himself from the bell tower, falling to his death. His ghost is said to haunt the island along with the tormented souls of the plague victims and the mentally ill patients. Today, Poveglia is abandoned and off-limits to the public, but many believe the spirits that remain there are restless and malevolent. Those who dare visit the island often report feeling a cold, oppressive atmosphere, accompanied by strange noises and the sensation of being watched. Some claim to have seen ghostly figures wandering through the ruins of the asylum or heard whispers from the beyond. 4. Château de Brissac, France. The haunted castle of the Green Lad Château de Brissac, located in the Loire Valley of France, is often regarded as one of the most beautiful castles in the world, but it is also known as one of the most haunted. The most famous ghost that haunts the chateau is the spirit of Charlotte de Brissac, a woman who was murdered in the castle by her husband in the 15th century. According to legend, Charlotte was the wife of King René of Anjou's grandson, Charles de Brissac. When Charles discovered that Charlotte was having an affair with a courtier, he flew into a jealous rage and killed her in the castle. Since then, her ghost, known as the Green Lady, has been seen roaming the castle. Her apparition is often described as a woman in a flowing green gown, her face a mask of sorrow and fury. Witnesses claim to have heard the sounds of footsteps following them through the castle's corridors, and some have even felt a cold, invisible presence beside them. 5. The Myrtles Plantation, USA. The most haunted house in America, located in St. Francisville, Louisiana, the Myrtles Plantation is one of the most well-known haunted locations in the United States. The plantation has a tragic history, marked by betrayal, murder, and the suffering of enslaved people. It is said to be home to at least 12 different ghosts, including the vengeful spirit of a woman named Chloe. Chloe, according to legend, was a slave who was punished for poisoning the plantation owner's wife and children. After being caught, she was reportedly hanged from a tree near the mansion. Since then, her spirit has been seen haunting the grounds, often appearing in a green headscarf. Visitors to the plantation report seeing her ghost, as well as hearing the sounds of children playing and laughing, even though no children live there. Other ghosts are said to haunt the plantation as well, including the spirits of slaves who perished under cruel conditions. One of the most chilling stories associated with the Myrtles Plantation is that of the ghost of the mirror. The mirror, which once belonged to the plantation's owners, is said to be haunted by the spirits of two young girls who died there. Their images are said to appear in the mirror, sometimes with marks or scratches on their faces, as though they are trying to escape. Today, the Myrtles Plantation is a bed and breakfast, and guests often report strange occurrences during their stay. Many claim to hear footsteps, feel cold spots, or see ghostly figures. The plantation is a reminder that the past never truly dies. It lingers, haunting the places where great suffering occurred. The deadliest haunted places on earth are not merely locations. They are portals to the past, where suffering, death, and tragedy are forever etched into the fabric of the land. Whether it's the tortured souls of royalty, the vengeful spirits of the wronged, or the restless energies of those whose lives were cut short, these places become charged with an energy that refuses to dissipate. They are reminders that the past, no matter how grim, always lingers, often in forms we cannot see, but can still feel.